In 1974, the first tabletop role-playing game was created. Since then, people from all around have gathered to play. Join me as we talk with RPG enthusiasts while they share their best, worst, and favorite moments. This is You Had to Be There.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast with me, Tom DeSillis. I have a really fun guest today, as I say that every time, because all my guests are really fun, but I have my first artist. Really, really exciting. Give it up, everybody, for Koffen. What's going on?
Hi, everybody. Hey.
So,
chilling at the end of my workday.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't we all? So at the bottom here, if anybody's watching this live, you can see some of your beautiful artwork. Let's talk about that first. Like, how long have you been doing artwork for?
So I used to do that in high school, which is quite a long time ago, but I didn't actually start drawing again and took like a 12-year hiatus up until I started playing D&D again.
Yeah?
Which was late 2018. And
okay.
We had been playing for a month or two, and I couldn't find a good reference for the character that I had in mind and who I was playing, so I just kind of started doing it again, and I had a friend who's a professional artist who's a good mentor to me, and really just kept pushing and pushing and pushing until I did more.
That's really cool, because I love that how you did it, and then D&D got you back into drawing, and I can't draw for anything, so but I'm with you. Like, I have a hard time like describing it verbally, so I always I'll go on like a Hero Forge or something to like create the character, because I need to like see it. But being able to draw like that is perfect, because you get way more attention to detail than some digital program. But like,
not when you first start.
Oh, when you first start, yeah, I'm sure.
It does help.
Do you draw, like, do you help other people that you kind of play with? Do you draw their characters a lot too?
I do. A little bit less now that I've been busy doing a lot more like for hire stuff. But when I first started, we would have like a really cool scene or something like that we had in our game, or character interaction, and I would go ahead and I would just draw that because it was, just our group of characters. We started off our campaign, there was 3 PCs. And then our DM had a bunch of NPCs and a DMPC eventually that I really like to draw as well.
Nice.
And then I am now in 4 weekly games and a text base. Wait. Most days.
One more time. 4 weekly
games a week.
And a text-based.
Yes. My husband's a pro DM, so I am deliciously spoiled.
That's awesome. Shout out to him. To pro DM is such a level of awesomeness. I know a few. I've interviewed a few. So I don't like to keep people together that like play, but in like a couple months or two, I'd love to have him on as well. So I like to space it out. But what was that first character then that you got back into drawing?
So I was always big into Greek mythology, so when we were trying to decide what we wanted to do, that's usually if I have to create a character, my inspiration is to just crack open like Edith Hamilton's mythology. So her name was Eurydice, and he actually, being my husband and being sweet and romantic, he made a DMPC that was Orpheus. I had her be what would now be a reborn, but this was a few years ago before they had that as the background. So I had it where, she had died, she didn't have her memories, and she was trying to, kind of figure out who she was.
Great.
And just had a song stuck in her head that she would remember.
Was this 5th edition, or was this a different system?
It was 5th edition. It was actually just after Waterdeep Dragon Heist came out, and that was the first campaign that we got back into. It was his first long-term campaign. Because we'd done like some, here's a few episodes or a few... sessions or something. That was the first one that we did.
I like calling them episodes too, I'll be honest. I like calling them episodes because it feels right.
It's like a mini series when you're devoting like 3 hours at a time. And
I don't know about you, but some people would be like, yeah, we'll like get together and play for like an hour or two. I'm like, at that point I'd be like, no, call me when you have at least 3 or 4 hours to kill, because I don't know, I really, for me, I need to like really get into it. I don't know, that's me.
Clearly I get into the roleplay aspect of it. That's why I do like so much of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you spend probably an hour outside of actually talking like your character.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
figuring stuff out, talking to each other, coordinating your moves and everything like that. So that hour should have to be completely hyper-focused. I know exactly what I'm doing.
You factor in the bullshit you do too, the banter, the joking that's like not in character, but kind of in character. Like, oh, maybe I should say this, but nice. Did you, so in 2018 were you doing all of your games in person and then or did you do any virtual? Like, how was that transition for you?
So we did all of them in person. We actually had to do some kind of version of digital for a little bit because we were playing with friends who lived a couple of hours away.
Sure.
So it was still theater of the mind. And then we got into Roll20 a little bit with it.
Sure.
But it would be, just a big conference call kind of situation where we had the two of us here in Orlando and, 3-4 of them over in Sarasota. We'd have the like speakerphone and we'd have to describe what we were doing.
That's wild.
Then we discovered Roll20, and thank goodness, because it's a lot easier of a tool. And of course, that grows and progresses over time.
Some of it definitely helps with that. It's, oh man, I can't even imagine doing it over like a conference call. That would throw me off a lot. That must be tough with combat too. Yeah.
I think a big part of it, though, the good thing with it though is I think for all of us like players and especially for like our DM, having to describe what you're doing a lot more. Describing we got a little bit more into the descriptions of it. So he still kind of keeps that. So, when we have a finishing move or we have like a stellar moment in battle, we're the kind of people where we're not just like, okay, I'm going to roll to attack. Like, okay, I'm going to take my hammer. I'm going to hoist it over my head. I'm going to leap into the air and I'm going to like go after his shoulder. So it's more descriptive, I think, for all of us, and that's just kind of the style of playing that we had to learn at first.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helped to evolve the games, make them a little bit more interactive and fun, and really kind of get into the character.
That's great. Yeah, it's still impressive, though. I think it's still impressive. Total full theater of the mind like that. I like a little visual, but either one's good, as long as you're having fun, right?
That's the whole point. Yeah. It's like you don't even need, and you really don't need anything, even if you don't have like physical dice. You could literally put into Google like roll a d20. Yeah. Or something like that. As long as you're talking and having fun with each other, that's the whole point of this.
That's my one, like, I'm an old, I don't know. And like, I haven't even been playing these games very long, being honest. Like, but the moment someone was like, well, you can roll it digitally, I was like, ugh. I don't know.
No, I hate that.
My buddy is like, he was like, we were playing and, usually when we play virtually, but we're on the honor system and no one lies. Like we roll, I've been a halfling and rolled a nat 1, re-rolled and rolled another nat 1. And I was honest. But my one buddy was like, no, I have to see your rolls. He's like, you have to use this thing. So what I did is I set up my camera over my dice tray. I was like, I'm not rolling. I'm not clicking those button nonsense. I want to feel it. I like my metal dice.
I say you don't need it, but I actually do. It's not me, it's the algorithm of any program, whether it's like Roll20 and D&D Beyond, whether it's within Discord or anything. Digital dice hate me. Real dice love me. And I have different dice for different characters. I think I have 38 sets right now. That's
a hefty amount of sets there.
That's not enough.
There's more, and there's people that are way worse, and then there's people that don't.
Oh yeah. God, I am nowhere near like the worst person with it. And my mom gave me like a bunch from like my stepdad that like they had because they weren't really able to play like where they are. They didn't really have a group or anything, so she brought those to me. So a lot of them are from her. And I have the dice that roll well for each character. That first character that I was talking about, you're a DJ. Yeah. So I had a mini set of D20s for her, which were black and gray and had like red numbers on them, and I really liked it. Yeah, the little teeny tiny ones. And I was so superstitious and weird about it because I'd have like my main dice and then I had like my auxiliary dice for like in case I had to roll extra damage. Yeah. And I would know if my husband touched them because they would roll badly.
Oh no.
And I would get really upset. So the D20 that I used for her was so lucky that in our last campaign I got the killing blow in on the Archdevil. We went from level 1 to 20. And I basically rolled like 2 nat 20s in a row. Oh my gosh. As a cleric did like 180 damage.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Because I had I think it was like reckless attacker or something like that. So if I got a nat 20, I got to attack again.
Interesting. Is that a feat?
It may have been a custom feat.
Custom feat. Got it.
I want to say it was Relentless Attacker is what it's called.
Relentless
so it might have been a
Attacker.
custom feat.
That might be cool.
So
nice.
So that D20 is in the chest that I used to roll my dice in, and it's just been shut in there and it's been put on the shelf, and it's a weird superstition. I might be strange, but that's where it lives.
No, it's fine. Everyone has their own superstitions. For me, it's whatever character I'm playing. I could use any dice. It doesn't matter if I'm playing like certain characters of mine. Are just inherently kind of dumb, bad. Like I built them to be like trying their best, and if I built them that way, they will roll awful, and that's like usually how it works. And then if I built them like a badass, they'll be really good at rolls for some reason.
See, sometimes the badasses are the ones that get the worst rolls. Like that seems to be the growing theme of every campaign. Yeah. Like if somebody in one of my campaigns decides that they're going to be that quintessential edgelord, they're gonna roll bad and end up re-rolling a new character. It's just, it's the flow of it. But the campaign, like the character with the dumbest, like, I'm just gonna kind of, float my way through this, and they roll the best and they do float their way through it.
Yeah. Very cool. So with your, I'm kind of curious. So the drawings that you sent me, are these characters that were commissions, or are these characters that were in campaigns?
So the 3 that are there, so the one that is with the red hair and the green tunic is beautiful. Actually from my current text campaign that I'm doing. So all of these are kind of my characters.
Sure.
That's why I shared them, just to make sure that I'm not stepping on anybody's toes here.
Yeah.
So that one I finished maybe about a week or 2 ago. Maybe a little, sometime in March. Time is an illusion. The orc there with the wonderful hat on,
the classic wizard
actually
hat.
Yes, that is it's my husband's pseudonym. So I'm in a coffin, in a coffin.
Right.
He is Alec Azam.
Right.
And that is his avatar. So I actually made that for him for his profile picture and for his logo, for everything.
I've been seeing him in the chat.
I don't own him, but I own half of what my husband owns. So
that's correct. Yes, always. And then who is
75% of French fries.
Yeah. Oh, 75. That's a deep cut. Whoa.
Listen, he signed the paper. I don't know what to tell you.
Did. Did. Wow. I like that. And then we have, it looks like some sort of...
The pink tiefling, right?
Yeah, she's cutie. Pink tiefling.
That is Sateria. So I'm currently playing her. We're doing Tomb of Annihilation, but we're doing it in in a desert instead of a jungle. Oh. So it's Tomb of Desolation.
Okay.
So we're doing it a little bit of a different way, just to kind of, take the bare bones of it and combine it with some other newer elements that's a little bit more fun.
Nice.
For this group of people who wouldn't necessarily like a lot of the harder elements, I guess, to TOA, but she is a wizard cleric.
A wizard cleric, wow.
Yes.
Wise and smart. Wow.
Yes. That's not very strong at all.
Not very strong.
Glass cannon.
Can't have it all.
But no, I had her background. She was a wizard. She became a cleric for a certain reason.
Sure. As they do.
So
very nice.
Those are all basically all characters of mine. All fairly recent pictures that I've done. So
as someone who can't draw, I kind of where do you draw? What makes you kind of figure out your style for you? How did you determine this is the way I want to draw? Because what I love about drawings, the way I got you here is just a simple Twitter post, and then a bunch of people were just like, oh, here's my drawings, and everyone is so impressively different. Yeah. So where did you get your how do you go about it?
So I definitely for me, my style, I always liked American comics, specifically Marvel comics.
Okay.
As a kid growing up, I was obsessed with the 90s X-Men cartoon.
Okay.
It's my entire life. The character that I was talking about, Eurydice and Orpheus, they were Gambit and Rogue personality-wise.
Got it.
Because that was the first thing I could think of.
Right.
Who would I want to be in a fantasy world? And it would obviously be Rogue,
mm-hmm.
who was not a rogue, but it's all good.
Right.
So a lot of influence through there. I know you and I had talked before. I used to work at Disney. I'm a big Disney person.
Right.
And I think that there is some overlap with, Disney animation and with Marvel comics and the more kind of classic American style of cartooning. Sure. so when I was first trying to draw and like learning to draw again, I'd look at a lot of comic books and try to like recreate or, draw side by side with the panels. And then my friend, who's kind of like my mentor as an artist, he got me using a lot more reference. So it's kind of like when I look at a photograph, what are the features that stand out more so to me when I think about what those kind of artists would capture.
Right. So what are those features? Like, what do you tend to like?
So if I say that, of course. So for me, the features that I really like to focus on a lot, I love hair.
Yeah.
Hair is probably my favorite thing to draw.
The red hair on that first one is so cool looking. It's like,
oh god,
it draws you in.
Big hair.
Yeah, that's some big hair.
Some big curly hair.
Yeah.
I love. I just really like things that flow. So I tend to like things that are a little bit more flowy. I like a lot of softer expressions for people just in general. So a lot of it's like around the eyes and the positioning over there. So those are kind of features I focus on a little bit more. I always love the comic book idea of how people should look. So, the gentlemen tend to be a little bit more buff. The women tend to be a lot more buxom.
Right. Okay.
My style, if I like a very buxom figure, I'm going to draw it.
That's fine. And look, everybody draws to their own thing. I can see like that flow, like even with the other ones are a little smaller, but with the one with the red hair, like, and see like the way her shirt kind of hits, it's all very like kind of like these very nice slopes and stuff. It's really, really cool.
Obviously, our clothes don't fit us that well unless you get them tailored, but
right. Well, that's
I think in a world where there's magic and
drawing
you can,
and fantasy,
mend with magic, why not?
Of course. And then if someone gives you like a commission, does it take you a couple tries? Like if someone's like, draw my character and they describe it, like how does that must be hard. I can't imagine like how difficult that must be.
I want to say it gets better with time to kind of understand and interpret, but it doesn't. It's all situational.
Sure.
I've been doing commissions for a couple of years now. I've been really since September of last year, I've had it where I have something I always have to work on and something always waiting for me to do.
Awesome.
And it used to take a longer time. I think with trial and error, a lot of what I'll do when somebody approaches me for a commission, I have a commission sheet that's like, okay, if you want a headshot that's, here to here, half body, it's here to here, full body. I say what I will and what I won't do, which really kind of fuels out a lot of things where, for example, when I talk about like mechs, I'm not really good at sci-fi stuff.
Got it.
I never really had much of an interest. If you want somebody to draw you like the coolest looking gun, I can recommend somebody to you, but I'm not going to just take your money and give you something.
It's an honorable thing to do. No, that makes sense.
I'm 100%. People ask for stuff all the time where I'm like, I might not be the best person.
Yeah.
I will challenge myself when it's something that I know that I can have some kind of basis on. So with like anthropomorphic characters and things like that, where I'm like, okay, it's like a human, but like a little bit of a variety or something like that. I can kind of work with it out of my comfort zone. But I think a lot of that's like, here, I'm upfront. This is what I can do. This is what I charge for it. This is what I will do, what I won't do. When somebody looks at that and then approaches me wanting to get a commission, I'll usually have a conversation. I'll be like, okay, like, what is it you're looking for? Tell me about your character. So I'll ask for a physical description, and I'll ask, if it's D&D, like, what race, what class, what subclass are you?
Right.
How do they play their character? I always ask them just tell me a couple sentences about their personality, or tell me what's one really cool thing that they did, because you could have, for example, a Twilight Domain cleric, and you can have 3 of them in a row, and all of them be completely different.
Right.
And I think personality and art comes a lot into it, because you could have just the, I could give somebody just a generic kind of just standing upright, looking face forward, shoulders squared off. But I think a lot of people are looking for somebody to draw their character because they're not finding some kind of generic art that really matches their character's look and personality.
Yes.
So personally, I do like to get to know the character a little bit. I'll ask them questions. I'll usually, depending, have a conversation with them. And then what I've really learned to kind of rein everything in on both my side and my client's side is the commission process. So once I have, I think, all of the information that I need for, who the character is, what they should look like, and what they, what the client wants as far as a pose or about, in general what they're looking for. I do a sketch first, and I send them the sketch, and I'm like, while it's in a sketch phase, I can change things. It should already be pretty close to what they're looking for because I've asked those questions and hopefully gotten an understanding of who they are. And, you know, there's always stuff to tweak, like for the clothing or, you know, it could like some simple things.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think they would have stood like that. Yeah, that makes sense. But that's really smart to be like, hey, here's a little rough draft, quick sketcheroo, and yeah, then from there you can build off of that.
Well, I hadn't done that always, and
Right, okay.
I really, you know, it becomes that much harder when you have, you know, 40 to 50 layers in one piece that you're doing, and then somebody wants you to change some small detail, but that small detail has 8 layers to it.
Right.
And I have to go, like, if I need to erase something,
Right.
I have to go through and I have to erase it on 8 layers and make sure that I get every little, like, scrap of it.
Oh.
So I have learned to be a little bit more, you know, confident in, like, what I'm doing, to say, okay, here's the sketch. Please take a few minutes or a few days or a few hours, however you need. Look it over. Tell me everything you want changed.
Okay.
I will then change those things and send it back to them so that it can be like, okay, yes, you understood what I was saying.
Beautiful. Yeah, no, that's great. And look, that's you live and you learn. Like there's so many.
Yeah.
Every episode I release, I'm like, I probably should edit, like work on this, and you know, it's how it works. You make those mistakes. Yeah. I'm sure you sent one to someone. You're like, I think this is perfect, and they were like, no, not at all.
It's like, not at all. I was like, I remember I got what really changed me and really, really helped is I had a couple of commissions where the communication's really rough because it's just, I'm a more visual person, so I can describe how something looks, but some people aren't that way, and that's totally fine, but they don't know how to describe what they want. So it's a lot of back and forth, a lot of like changes, and I've learned to ask better questions and to ask for, you know, more references, things like that. But somebody commissioned me and they sent me a Word document, and I will never forget, I was at Melting Pot when I received it, and I like started crying because I was so relieved and so happy about this. Because I'd gone from a few commissions where I was like literally like ready to pull my hair out.
They're like, it's
and,
a
like,
tiefling
not do it.
and a rogue, and you're just like, okay, like that, like just
Right,
like the
just
most
like,
minimal amount.
I'm like, I had to change, and this was like, you know, earlier on in me doing it, where I had a sketch sent back 11 times, and I'm like, I would never let that fly now.
Yeah.
Because that's so much stress on both sides. But they sent me a Word document, and it's like, here is, you know, all of the basic details about the character. Here's a little bit about their personality. Here is a couple of pop culture references of like where they were inspired from. With, if I didn't know who the reference was, like Ash from Evil Dead was one of the references that he gave. And he gave a YouTube with a timestamp of like 45 seconds of it, this is what I mean.
Right.
And then he's like, okay, so for clothing, it would be similar to this, included 3 pictures of different, like, styles of clothing, and wrote comments next to it as to what they liked from it. They're like, you could do whatever your interpretation, but this is just so we're on the same page. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, this is the most beautiful
I love someone who's thorough.
I've
with you.
ever... It was so great. I literally was crying.
Love it.
Because it was just so... communication, and that's kind of what I ask for now. Like, I'll ask people for references, I'll ask people about the personality, I'll ask like what they're like or who they're like, and I think that gives a much better idea, because we all get inspired by something.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got someone else in the chat, Matt DH, welcome to You Had to Be There, where we talk. Is that one of your friends?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. They're all hopping in.
He is an amazing artist too.
Oh, awesome. Well, maybe we'll get him in a little bit. It's gonna be an artist like marathon over the next couple months. I'm so excited. I'm gonna learn so much about art that I cannot do at all.
I mean, if you want to put the time into it and everything, I could give you my mentor's name and everything, and then maybe
that thing that you refer to, that thing called time. I don't have any of that. I need more of that, and I don't have any of that.
Right.
Because but so I love this. It's so insightful as far as all these arts. I'm so glad that like you're doing your thing, you're getting work.
Thank you.
I want to kind of start to transition into the main focus of this. I want to hear about your games. Like, as a player, do you ever DM, or you mostly play? I know you're married to a professional DM, so it might be easy to just be like, hey, you go.
So yeah, I have had 1.5 attempts at being a DM. One incredibly disastrous attempt for Alakazam for his birthday. Just a few, maybe 5 or 6 scant months after we had started playing our home game, I decided I was going to write a one-shot. A big mistake. First out of the bat, like trying to write a one-shot for his birthday, and I thought I was being so clever, and I was going to theme it off of Clue, where all the NPCs were like Clue, and I had this whole great idea, but I didn't actually really plan out any encounters or any fights. It was just going to be a mystery, so
got it.
It was chaotic. He got killed, his character.
Oh.
His character was really kind of rude to one of the other PCs. Like, one of the other PCs was like her servant, her assistant, her like whatever, and they were just, playing a really dumb character, and my NPC just made it offhand like, are you sure you want to revive her? She's kind of mean to you. And then he's like, you know what? No. And he's just sitting there like, it's my birthday. And I was like, it's okay, it's fine. I had my stats in my head of my, my cleric. Right. So I just assigned those stats to an NPC and like was trying to revive. But he just sat there like, nope, it's totally fine. I want to watch this happen. But he's the most chaotic player.
Okay. That's fine, then. So if you're willing to put yourself in those situations, then it's what you get sometimes.
Yes. And then he tried to teach me. We tried to do like some one shots together, like over Roll20, so he could kind of teach me. But
yeah,
I'm not creative in the same kind of ways. Where I can be very reactive for one person. I can't be very reactive for a bunch of people.
It's a lot.
So I am spoiled because I do get to play in multiple games and have many characters and like you're talking about like many fun experiences. But I'm not a good DM.
It's, you know what,
it's just not.
For someone who like I think if you're gonna try it out, unless you're like super gung-ho, like I've talked to some people where they're like, no, I didn't look at any modules, I just started homebrewing my own world, and like that's a special type of person that can do that. For the average person, I think I just went on like the DM's Guild and bought like the easiest one shot for like $2.50 that I could find. And that was
start there.
That's, yeah, honestly, I think that's the way to go. Even to this day, like I talked about writing one, and I feel like I could, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And then you think of everything, but you're definitely not going to think of everything. Because I've bought modules, like simple modules that people wrote, and there was like one slight flaw. This one item was like in a place that was too readily available, and they cut the campaign halfway because they're just like, oh, we're done. And I'm just like,
players will
right.
abuse any loophole we can.
Yeah.
And I will say that because I'm the worst.
Do it. Tell me about it.
The only reason that my husband is a pro DM and has created like now over 1,000, because it was over 900 last year, pages of homebrew.
Wow.
All of this stuff that he does. He's actually released like a few different things that I've illustrated for him or done some art.
What a team you guys are. What a team. I love that.
He doesn't have to pay for it, except for emotionally.
Back rubs, head rubs. I feel like that's,
not even more like go get me. That would be nice.
Another 5% of his French fries.
Ooh, you might be onto something there. So.
Sorry, Alec.
No, it's all working together. But it started off with that first home campaign. We had an NPC who's just no joy in his life. Was the sole survivor of like 2 factions that were completely wiped out, and just had this like horrible survivor's guild. Was an elf, so of course he had to live with that for hundreds of years. And his sister, as an NPC, was like my character's best friend. Just became very, very close to like this NPC. Really hit it off. So to see like her brother struggling, it got me so upset. And what he did with these particular elves is they had these things called soul stones. So when they die, their spirit goes into a soul stone. It's not, you wouldn't be able to speak with dead on a fresh body with them. So, me not being able to handle any kind of sadness whatsoever, we're going to bed and I'm hounding him. It's like, if it's there on his chest, I should be able to use some kind of speak with dead to talk to the spirits of his generals and his mentors so they could tell him that he's a good person. And I would not relent. And then he made a spell, which has gone through a few different iterations of the name. So maybe he'll say in the chat what the actual is. I think it's Eurydice's Spiritual Guidance, because he named it after her.
Okay.
It's the first one, where it kind of modifies being able to speak with dead to let you use tokens or relics. And there's a whole scaling of, how close it was to that person and how effective that could be for the spell.
Right.
So kind of like with Message, where it's like the more familiar you are with them, the better your success.
Yeah. No,
but that was the
makes
first.
sense, because like they say, and whether you believe it or not, like for me, you see certain items of someone and you immediately feel closer to them or whatever. And it could be, someone who's gone, someone who's not, a pet. But like that makes sense in the sense that, you're like, they hold on to that. So that's a really interesting like way to go about it.
And it really got me involved in the story and everything, because I just, when you care about the other players, when you care about their characters, when you care about the NPCs, when you care about the world, that's when it goes from just being a game with your friends to something that has, actual like meaning to you, like something that's a bonding experience.
Yeah.
So that was a really big, bond for me. It was something that we got to do kind of closer to the end of the campaign and see some actual like growth and progress from this character. And I was bawling like the whole time we're doing it. He really set in a fantastic scene. Instead of just bringing back like the one or like being able to talk to the one person, it brought back the spirits of like the entire fleets of people that he had lost, and he got to get that validation. So
you basically put his soul at you put his soul at peace.
And my character's whole, like, her background, like, her whole thing was helping people, like, with their souls who were unrest. Souls were, like, the theme of her being a death domain cleric.
Oh, like a guardian angel almost, like bringing them over to the... That's beautiful.
Our version of Hades, we look at Hades in Greek mythology not as, like, this crazy villain or anything.
Right.
He's really the only Greek god who's not a jerk.
Because he's doing the hardest job.
He's doing the hardest job. He's a dude who does his job, is responsible for the souls. He's like, death is just death.
Right.
And we kind of made that like into he's the one who takes the lost souls. He's the one who takes the souls of the people who are not necessarily favored by any particular god. They don't belong on, Mount Olympia. They don't belong in the hells. It's a neutral place.
Right.
Everybody has to go somewhere. So for her to be able to kind of make his soul at rest, that was a really big, exciting moment for me. And now there's a ton of homebrew. He runs like 10 to 15 weekly campaigns, and it's just a whole can of worms that we opened up there.
That's awesome, though. And now you have a cool spell that can
and a
go
ton
on
of characters to draw.
Yeah, and a ton of characters to draw. Very, very cool. I'm trying to think. How about any other, like, what about just general fun favorite stories that happened over your games?
So you mentioned Matt Mandh, and I have to say, Matt is fantastic to play with. He's so great back and forth. So we had we did Waterdeep Dragon Heist, going into Rime of the Frost Maiden.
Okay.
So he was playing a half-elf Gloomstalker Ranger.
Very cool class.
Very much like the, I have the Batman voice, and he's just like,
yeah.
It's like, I gotta get all the end. I can't do that deep of a voice. I have more of a Disney voice.
Because I'm kind of sick.
It doesn't, yeah. Oh, there you go. That always helps. You got the sexy, like, flu voice or
what was
whatever
that from,
that Phoebe says in Friends.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, yeah.
There you go, so. But, so he was more like the straight man. I was playing my favorite character to play in anything, if I just gotta jump into something.
Sure.
Her name is Captain Aurea Sterling. She has, like, super crazy accent, just kind of talks like this, really, really fast, tries to talk her way out of everything. So she looks like a sun elf. She used to be on a pirate crew. She's a cleric of Mask.
Okay.
We homebrewed her domain as a merchant domain, so money is her whole business. Getting treasure, getting money, like that's what's important to her. That's kind of how she lives her life. She's just incredibly ridiculous, intentionally mispronounces people's names because it's fun. Really, like...
Very chaotic cleric, then. Very, kind of
super,
trickery
super
domain-ish
chaotic.
Almost. Like that, yeah, I'm a cleric, but barely.
Right. It's like, I'll help you, but like, if I feel like it.
If it's fun, yeah.
Right. It's just more for like the flavor of the spells, and her spiritual weapon that I would use was a gold gem-encrusted anchor that would just wallop people. But she was really not a sun elf. She was a changeling.
Ah.
And she just, her normal persona, she was a sun elf. So there was this one encounter where we had to go into a mausoleum, and there was some Durgar. And most people, if you know, Durgar in Total Darkness, they're invisible. Well, so is a Gloomstalker ranger at that level.
Yeah.
So he's like totally in his element.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a half elf Gloomstalker. He can see in the dark. We had a Dampier monk. He can see in the dark.
Yeah.
We're about to go in, and he's like, wait, can everybody see in the dark? And I'm like, no, I cannot see in the dark. Right. And he's like, she's an elf. Of course she can. She's just being difficult.
Yeah.
So I said I couldn't see in the dark. We go into this mausoleum. We start getting attacked by these Durgar. So when it comes to be my turn at the end of the round, she does like Radiant Blade or something, so she can see in front of her, and it completely derails the Gloomstalker's plans because now he can be seen.
Right. Yeah.
And now he's like in the thick of things.
So
with
he's
these
pissed.
Durgar.
He's like, "What are you doing?"
He's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I told you I can't see." And it's the funniest thing. So like we have this like completely chaotic battle, and we're coming at a thing, and he's like yelling. He's like, "Why would you do that? Like we had a plan." And he's like, "Oh," and she's like, "I am a sun elf. We do not like the darkness."
Right.
And that was like the joke, so I could kind of keep it going for a while.
Okay.
With that, she's like not revealing she's a changeling. But we had some like really fun back and forths. She's still my favorite character.
That's
just.
Ironically, I have a fairly similar story, and this is the dangers of playing a changeling, because we were playing a campaign and we were with a half orc, and I was a human, and she was disguised as a snow elf, and I was like, I can't see. The half orc is a moron, barbarian. Like he was like, So I was like, so I'm gonna hold on to you so you can see. So you can guide me through this dark cave. And that's how I busted her. Because she was like, I can't see in the dark. And I was like, what? Right. And there was a couple times where I didn't know, because she was like, oh yeah, I can see in the dark. And I didn't know, like on the back burner, like, because we were playing virtually. So she was rolling her attacks at disadvantage, and I didn't know. So like it is, you got to be careful with those changelings, because you can get busted pretty easily.
Oh, but it's so great but that's the role-playing thing of it. It's just like, in the moment, I was like, I'm a sun elf.
Human.
It's a sun elf. Like, I wouldn't be in the darkness or anything. Yeah, it's just, you can come up with an excuse for just about anything.
Sure. Oh, it's a birth
really
defect.
Yeah, that's the thing. And I think that there's got to be a distinction at some point between my knowledge as a player and my character's knowledge. So, yes, he was a half-elf, and he had dark vision because he was a half-elf, so he could assume.
Right.
That all elves could see. His character might know that about elves. But does the average, person in a fantasy world know the list of races that have dark vision?
That's true. And depending on, like, where... Ooh, voice crack. Depending on where you grew up, like, if you were sheltered, you might not know. If you grew up... if you were a orc or a half orc, grew up in the outskirts, in the wilderness, you don't know. You wouldn't know. So that makes total sense. Like, if you have a
hermit background, you don't know anything. Come on.
I mean, that's not necessarily true either. You could have been intelligent before, but there's.
Well, I mean, about like other people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's. No, it makes sense, and I'm for that too.
Right.
Like, you should play what your character would know, not what you know as a person.
Yeah, I think our players, or at least in the games that I'm in, are pretty good about, would my character know this? And typically then Alec will have us roll for it.
It's one of my favorite... So, Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, you roll a check to see, like, if they have same or similar knowledge. It's like, I might have, encountered this kind of creature a bunch of times before, but has my character ever encountered these? And then kind of roll to see if you have.
Yeah, I love when I roll bad and like they're like, well, what do you do? And like me on the outside, it's like I didn't see it. I'm like, well, he would walk forward. He doesn't see it, and then like it's just like one of those. That's what would happen. That's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah, it's not what Eno would do. It's what my character would do.
Yeah. What are you guys playing right now then? What are you playing through right now? In one of your many games, I guess.
So, let's see. Let me go.
So you have four games. Just wild.
Okay. Hang on.
Weekly games, you said?
Let me make sure. Yes. Let me make sure that number is correct.
Sure.
Because it changes regularly. Do the whole like memory retention look to the side. Okay. So on Sundays, we are playing a combination of Acquisitions Incorporated and Storm King's Thunder.
Okay. Interesting.
So that is the combination. On Monday nights, we are playing Witchlight. Wild Beyond the Witchlight.
Okay. I think I've heard of that one. That one's not as known, right? I don't think I've...
Wild Beyond the Witchlight, I think, just came out, Okay. October, November last year. Like, end of the year-ish last year. So it's a fairly recent one. It all takes place in the Feywilds, which is bananas.
Oh, that's fun.
That is fun.
That's
it's not a very combat-heavy one. It's a very role-play-heavy one.
Is that fun from an artist for an artist
perspective? I appreciate that. So I'm playing trippy. Another kind of... I'm either very much the group mom, or I am the chaos.
Actually, that's funny.
I don't have an in-between.
Yeah.
The two sides, it's my actual personality as
and
group mom.
Your alter ego.
And if I could just be somebody else.
Yeah.
Let me be as on-me as possible. So with that one, yeah, she's just wild. So it's a lot of fun for me. Because all I get to do is sit there and do, like, one-liners and make jokes and make everybody laugh. While my husband sits 2 feet away from me, going, oh, stop. Please. Enough with the pun. No, it's not that bad. And then maybe I'm in 3 right now because I feel like 1 just ended. Because Friday nights when we do our Tomb of Desolation, which used to be like Tomb of Annihilation.
In the desert, yeah.
Okay, Alec in the chat, am I missing something? What am I missing? Nobody get offended.
No,
I have to go chronologically through the week.
Sunday.
I might be thinking of like our RP, but because I think we just had finished a campaign somewhat recently. So I used to be doing 4. So then the RP
it's actually King's Thunder, yeah.
Yeah.
That was the combination Thunder. One on Sunday, yeah. So then that's the 3.
Okay, so I'm in 3 right now. I didn't mean to lie.
Taking it easy, I guess. Yeah.
I had to. I got too much drawing to do.
That's good.
And too much puppy cuddling to do.
We all need that, yeah.
Too much stuff.
I would love to get like one more, if you have 1 or 2 more stories of your favorite D&D moments, and then I want you to plug all your stuff, and then we'll get you out of here.
Oh, let's see, what's a good moment? See, it's when you're really trying to think.
Yeah.
That's always like the hardest thing.
That's okay.
No, I think like some of the best moments that I had were from my first campaign. I have a really good one for my second campaign. I tried to play somebody very atypical to what I usually play. I was a paladin who was part of this like Inquisition force, and just very tough. And I'm not a very tough, like not genial person. Like I have characters who could do damage, but they're usually very high charisma. So
yeah,
me trying to play like the straight man,
the full caster route.
Listen, if it's gonna be a fantasy, I just want to be pretty and magical. Beautiful. I just want to be like a Disney princess that kicks ass.
Yeah.
Like that's it. I want to be Rogue from X-Men. That's
So you're playing this. So you're playing a paladin now. You're playing a paladin.
So I was playing my paladin Soldara, and we had So she was a Kalashtar, which Kalashtar are resistant to psychic damage.
Okay. Yes.
And this was a homebrew paladin that specifically was part of a force of people who arrest magic users. So it's kind of like a detective or like a police officer for magic users, like made to take down wizards.
Right.
So there was a, I don't know if it was elder brain. I don't know what level of brain it was, but it was kind of in this, it was in this like pool of liquid that did psychic damage. That it kind of controlled. elder brains tend to do a lot more psychic damage as well.
Right.
And it did a wall of force. So I got in before its turn and it could do the wall of force. So it basically trapped me in a bubble with it.
Ooh.
And I took the entire thing out by myself because I was able to, for a period, be resistant to damage from magical effects.
That's awesome.
So basically, nothing was hurting me, and I was just laying into this thing, like, smiting the heck out of it.
Nice.
And just got to be, like, a total badass, which I don't usually get to do, being the really, like, happy, friendly, cares about everybody's emotions cleric. I was just a beast.
You're just
so
a
that
beast.
Was
1v1 in a brain.
Oh, yeah. Just smooshing some brains.
Smooshing some brains. Hell yeah. Nice.
So that was a very fun one. I there's like so many different stories.
Isn't it so funny? I was like, this should be an easy thing, and then everyone's like, oh my god, there's so many. Yeah, I know.
Well, it's as soon as you ask anybody to think of anything, if you're like, think of a number, it's like your brain has to recover from the shock of it.
No, I get it. Have you ever
Hang on, what?
How about when Abby accidentally killed someone?
Oh,
yeah, you mentioned it in the chat. Abby accidentally killed someone. Let's do that one.
Sorry, I don't have the chat up. Okay.
No, it's okay.
So,
I'm trying to, but I want to pay attention to you too, so I don't look at it too much.
That's my husband being like, you forget things.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because that's what spouses do. They get up, walk from the other side of the house, over to yell at you when you have noise-canceling headphones on.
No problem.
You pay attention.
Let's hear about how Abby accidentally killed someone.
Abby Cadabra.
You guys love your play on words. I love it.
She's the granddaughter of Alakazam.
Okay.
Like adopted granddaughter. But
So
Abby Cadabra, she's just the cutest. She's just this happy little she's a trickery domain cleric, so she's actually a cleric of Alakazam. It was this whole fun thing that we did for our home game because we have all of our history and NPCs and things like that she was related to. And, she's got famous wizards for family members, went to this really nice wizard, magical school. She's a student, and we're in Tyranny of Dragons. We're going through this whole thing, and everybody has their tragic backstory. And she was supposed to just be on vacation, and she just happens to be in this cart. She's going up to Arn so she could, hang out with her boyfriend, but she, had to do some errands and Candlekeep first. Okay. And just decided that, you know what, instead of, I'm just gonna take this party train. You're, just gonna hop on this bus. So everybody else is it's so intense. And she's just super duper happy. She's like, nothing is a big deal. There's zero consequences. If anything happens to me, it's not a big deal. It's I know really important people. I'm fine. And then we have I don't know if you know anything about the Cult of Dragons with Tyranny of Dragons. They want to bring back Tiamat.
Yes. So
you follow this caravan, and you're really trying to spy on these cultists, see where they're taking all of this money. And there's a certain point where there's an NPC that I was friendly with who was also very boisterous and talkative, and she's off in the woods, and I see her, and I see this cultist about to attack her, about to shoot her with a crossbow or something.
Mm-hmm.
And the first instinct she has to do, it is a homebrew spell, but it's a homebrew spell that essentially catapults people. We call it Fling.
Okay.
And
so it's like the spell catapult, but you could do it on a person.
But you could do it on a person.
That's fun.
And you have to roll to see what direction they go in.
Oh, no.
So if they hit something, if they go straight up, then they would take fall damage. Now, we are in the middle of the woods. It sends them, I want to say either 20 feet or 30 feet. So as an instinct, she's like, I gotta get them away from this person. So I cast that spell. Well, they fling up straight into, a bunch of trees. So basically just really bad way to go.
Just thread it through branches.
So she accidentally kills somebody to protect this very innocent person. And they are a cultist, and they have murdered people, and they are a terrible person who wants to bring back Tiamat. But she was just such a happy,
she just didn't want to kill anyone?
Never thought about killing. No, she never would have, She takes things seriously to the extent of, this is a dangerous situation, I need to do something. but has never really had to kind of deal with. And I don't think that that's something that we deal with a lot, because if you think about all these backgrounds and all these different characters that people have had, there's a lot of characters where it might be their first time killing somebody. It could be their first time in a fight.
That's really funny. So it was her first time killing somebody?
It's her first time.
Wow.
And it really, really, really got to her. And it was really fun for me to kind of like role play that out, to go from like, hey, like, how would this person react? And it's like, how would I react as a human being?
Yeah.
Knowing that, like, I did something like that. And, like, my split decision. And it's like, I'm not regretting that I did it, because
You saved your friend.
Obviously, like, yeah, she saved somebody who was innocent. She saved her friend. It's like, this person was a bad person. What they're doing is, like, our whole point is to stop them. And they're a nobody. They're a low-level, like, cultist that, you know, when you're level 1, level 2, you're, you know, fighting a dime a dozen of them.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed kind of putting that aspect into it, because I don't think it's something people pay that much attention to. It's like, even if you're not a murder hobo, how many things people do you kill in a campaign and not really regret or, like, think about? So that was a good one that he brought up.
My current character is kind of a shithead, so he has no care at all. He's like, I don't know.
Right.
I'm getting paid, so, you know. Yeah, but for sure, there's definitely some aspects where, like, you play a character and it's not really what they want to do, and then it happens and you're like, oh, but that must have been really, like, fun, because, like, a lot of people probably go into their characters assuming that the character has killed people already, because they're so comfortable with it.
But
Most
I see
characters
so
are
many
so
interesting
comfortable.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
It's like, you could have a background where you were a merchant, and now you got bored.
Yeah, you see me
You could
chop
have a
the guy's
background
head
where
off.
you're
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like, I used to weave stuff.
Yeah.
Now I stab people to death. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I got tired of baking bread, so I thought I'd go and kill goblins instead. What? It's like, yeah, you know, that's funny.
And, you know, goblins are people now.
That's true.
Like, that's the thing. It's like, sure, they've gone from monster to, like, person, but there's still a lot of campaigns where it's like, you gotta fight all these goblins, you gotta fight all these orcs, and so for me, it was just really interesting, because I was like, no, instead of just assuming, I'd be like, what would it actually be like if a literal student on her first adventure, or even, like, you have people who are actual soldiers and you go through all of this training and everything, and it's so different, they say, like, when they actually have to get into a battle from training. And I think that that's something we kind of turn off in the fantasy, but I like to role play my ass off, so.
No, I thought about making like some sort of fighter where he spent all his time like heavily training and studying, so his like wisdom would be super bad, which is the worst stat to dump, but I thought it'd be funny to do it one day, so it's on my list of things to do. It's just like, because like people focus that, you know, he's probably just stood in a training camp, you know, fighting wooden, you know, dummies or whatever, and he's probably very good at what he does, but doesn't have the street smarts. So like I feel like that would be a fun character to play.
The book smarts versus street smarts. I mean, that's the thing. You could train yourself to know how to do something. Yeah. But then as soon as you add other people to it.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought it'd be really interesting
out of your element.
Role play wise.
I do think.
Let's have you throw out any plugs. Where can people find you? How does someone wanted to get a commission, get something drawn? Like what do they do?
So there's a couple of different ways to reach me. All of my social medias, it's at Ina_Koffen, Koffen, like it is on the screen. I'm really active more on Twitter. I have an Instagram as well, so you can message me there. I'm also on Discord, so people can it's at Ina_Koffen. I could be found there as well. If you are interested in the commission, on my Twitter profile, it's my pinned tweet has all my commission information. You can send me a message, just let me know what you're interested in. Look at some different examples. These are just a few pictures that I put up for you to see, but I'm pretty quick about finishing things. Like, I probably have something new, like, almost every week, depending on, like, my clients' communication back and forth with me. If I don't get communication for them, I draw for myself. I just have to do it every single day, or I go crazy. It's a habit.
Great. Absolutely. We'll get those links in your description. We'll get that all organized so people can find you. Thanks everyone for listening. Thank you for our couple friends that have been hanging out in the chat. That's always cool. This has been You Had to Be There. Once again, my name's Tom DeSillis. I'm also a stand-up comedian, so please follow me on Twitter, T DeSillis Comedy, or on Instagram, Tom DeSillis Comedy. I also have a Discord, which is in my description, if anybody wants to come and hang out with us and talk about games and such. Let's drop my credits too. My music for my intro was created by Michael James McGarry. You can find him at It's MJ Made on Instagram or SoundCloud, and my logo was created by Nicole Summers from the Reliably Chaotic Podcast. And last of all, if you want to be a guest on the show, talk to me about your cool games. Hit me up on Twitter, direct message works, or you can email me at youhadtobethere@dndpodcast@gmail.com. And that'll pretty much wrap this up. Thank you, everybody. This has been You Had to Be There, a D&D storytelling podcast with Ina Koffen.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.